97 years. That's exactly how long it's been since the last devastating earthquake struck Israel in 1927, killing 500 people and injuring 700 others. Since 2024, 75 earthquakes have been recorded in the region, with magnitudes reaching 4.7. But what scientists have just discovered beneath the waters of the Dead Sea will send chills down your spine. Professor Shmuel Marco, director of the Porter School of the Environment and Earth Sciences at Tel Aviv University, declared these terrifying words. The geological record does not lie. A major earthquake in Israel will come. We're not talking about a simple earthquake. We're talking about a biblical prophecy that's 2,700 years old unfolding before our eyes, minute by minute. And what you're about to discover in the next few minutes could change your understanding of the times in which we're living. Imagine for a moment, you're in Jerusalem, the 3 times holy city. It's past midnight. The city sleeps beneath a starry sky that has witnessed millennia of history. Suddenly the earth begins to shake. It's not thunder, it's not an explosion. It's something far more ancient, far deeper, something the prophets of the Old Testament had announced with terrifying precision. Right now, as you listen to these words, Israel sits on one of the most dangerous seismic zones on the planet. The country is located along the Syrian-African rift, a tear in the Earth's crust that extends from northern Syria to Mozambique, spanning over 3,700 miles. This gigantic tectonic fault runs exactly along the Israeli-Jordanian border, passing through the Dead Sea, that biblical place where the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah were once annihilated. But here's what the media isn't telling you. In 2020, researchers from Tel Aviv University drilled hundreds of meters beneath the bed of the Dead Sea. What they discovered in the sediment layers confirmed their worst fears. By analyzing 220,000 years of geological history, they established that an earthquake of magnitude 6.5 strikes this region on average every 130 to 150 years. Do the math. The last one occurred in 1927. We're in 2025. We're past due. But wait, the story becomes even more troubling. These same scientists discovered that sometimes these devastating earthquakes don't occur at regular intervals. Certain periods have seen several major earthquakes follow one another in just a few decades. The Earth itself seems to follow a rhythm that science struggles to explain, but which the Bible revealed millennia ago. Let's transport ourselves to ancient Israel around 760 BC. A shepherd named Amos from Tekoa, a small town south of Jerusalem, receives terrifying visions about Israel's future. The book of Amos begins with these precise words. The words of Amos, one of the shepherds of Tekoa, the vision he saw concerning Israel 2 years before the earthquake, when Uzziah was king of Judah and Jeroboam son of Jehoash was king of Israel. 2 years before the earthquake. Not just any earthquake. The earthquake. The one that marked minds so profoundly that centuries later, the prophet Zechariah would still reference it in chapter 14, verse 5. You will flee as you fled from the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah. This earthquake was so devastating, so memorable, that it served as a temporal reference point, a historical marker for an entire nation. Modern archaeologists have actually discovered evidence of this earthquake at several excavation sites in Israel, with destruction layers dating precisely from this period of the 8th century BC, but the prophecy doesn't stop there. In the book of the prophet Isaiah, chapter 29, verse 6, we read these striking words. The Lord Almighty will come with thunder and earthquake and great noise, with windstorm and tempest and flames of a devouring fire. This passage applied first to ancient Jerusalem, but biblical scholars agree that it also has a prophetic dimension concerning the end times. Let's move forward to the 1st century AD. Jesus Christ, seated on the Mount of Olives facing the Temple of Jerusalem, responds to his disciples' questions about the signs that will precede his return and the end of times. His words, recorded in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 24, verses 6 to 8, resonate with troubling relevance. Nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains. The beginning of birth pains. In Greek, the term used is odin, which literally designates the contractions of a woman in labor. Jesus uses this powerful metaphor to describe how natural disasters, including earthquakes, will intensify progressively, like increasingly frequent and painful contractions before the birth of a new era. The Apostle John, exiled on the island of Patmos near the end of the 1st century, receives the most detailed revelation about the events of the end times. In the book of Revelation, earthquakes appear at crucial moments of divine judgment. In chapter 6, verse 12, at the opening of the 6th seal, I watched as he opened the 6th seal. There was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like sackcloth made of goat hair. The whole moon turned blood red. In chapter 11, verse 13, after the resurrection of the 2 witnesses, at that very hour there was a severe earthquake, and 1/10 of the city collapsed. 7,000 people were killed in the earthquake. But it's in chapter 16, verse 18, that John describes the ultimate earthquake, the one that will accompany the final judgment. Then there came flashes of lightning, rumblings, peals of thunder, and a severe earthquake. No earthquake like it has ever occurred since mankind has been on earth, so tremendous was the quake. A seismic event of an amplitude never seen in all of human history. Let's return to our time. In 2024 and 2025, Israel has already recorded 75 earthquakes. On July 22, 2024, an earthquake of magnitude 3.7 was felt near the Dead Sea, in the Jerusalem area and in parts of the southern country. On May 14, 2025, an earthquake of magnitude 4.6 shook Israel during the night, with tremors felt from Haifa in the north to Ashkelon in the south. Residents of Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, Beth Shemesh, and numerous other cities reported feeling their apartments shake, their furniture move, their light fixtures sway. What's even more troubling is that these earthquakes often occur at night, between midnight and the early morning hours, as if the earth itself waits for darkness to manifest its restlessness, as if something deep, ancient, is awakening beneath our feet. The Israeli state comptroller, Matanyahu Engelman, published a damning report in September 2023. His conclusion is unequivocal. Israel has failed in its earthquake preparedness efforts. More than 600,000 buildings in the country don't meet earthquake resistance standards. 600,000. Imagine the consequences. If a magnitude 6.5 earthquake struck tomorrow, in February 2023, the head of the government commission responsible for earthquake preparedness warned that major Israeli cities weren't fully prepared for a major earthquake. This statement came right after a devastating earthquake in Turkey and Syria killed more than 50,000 people, brutally reminding the entire world of the destructive power of these natural disasters. But what makes this situation even more prophetic is the current geopolitical context. Israel finds itself at the center of unprecedented regional tensions. The prophet Zechariah in chapter 14 describes a future scenario where all the nations will gather against Jerusalem for battle. It's precisely at this moment that the text describes an earthquake that will split the Mount of Olives in two, creating a great valley from east to west. Verse 4 says, "On that day his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives east of Jerusalem, and the Mount of Olives will be split in two, from east to west, forming a great valley, with half of the mountain moving north and half moving south." Geologists confirm this is exactly what could happen during a major earthquake along the Syrian-African fault that passes precisely under the Mount of Olives. Modern science validates a prophecy that's 2,500 years old. In 2024, during the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah, military explosions of such power were detonated in southern Lebanon that they were recorded by Israeli seismographs as earthquakes. On October 26, 2024, 284 localities in northern Israel received seismic alerts after the Israeli army detonated houses in the border village of Odessa. The European International Monitoring Network even recorded these detonations as seismic activity. The Earth itself no longer distinguishes between human acts of war and the natural movements of its tectonic plates. Revelation describes a period when the boundaries between divine judgment and consequences of human actions become blurred, when creation itself seems to groan and suffer, awaiting deliverance, as the Apostle Paul writes in Romans chapter 8, verses 19 to 22, "For the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed. For the creation was subjected to frustration, not by its own choice, but by the will of the one who subjected it, in hope that the creation itself will be liberated from its bondage to decay and brought into the freedom and glory of the children of God. We know that the whole creation has been groaning as in the pains of childbirth right up to the present time." Let's return once more to that night of July 11, 1927. At 1:04 p.m. local time, an earthquake of magnitude 6.1 struck the region of the Syrian-African Rift. Its epicenter was located just 5.8 miles southwest of the city of As-Salt in Jordan. The tremors were felt throughout the region. In Jerusalem, buildings collapsed. In Bethlehem, the Church of the Nativity suffered significant damage. In Jaffa, on the Mediterranean coast, ancient houses crumbled. In Amman, Jordan, the destruction was massive. The final toll was terrifying: 500 dead, 700 injured. But these numbers only tell part of the story. Entire families were buried under the rubble. Orphans wandered the streets. Drinking water was contaminated. Diseases spread. The regional economy was paralyzed for months. That was 97 years ago, almost a century. Israel's population was then about 750,000 people. Today, it exceeds 9 million. Cities have expanded. Skyscrapers have risen. Infrastructure has multiplied. And 600,000 buildings don't meet earthquake-resistant standards. If an earthquake of magnitude 6.5, like the one predicted by scientists, struck today, experts estimate that human losses could number in the tens of thousands. Material damage would be counted in hundreds of billions of dollars. Emergency services would be quickly overwhelmed. Hospitals would be saturated. Roads would be cut off. Electricity would be interrupted. Drinking water would be scarce. And this in an already extremely tense regional context. But here's what's perhaps most troubling. Since 1914, the world has experienced more than 1,250 major earthquakes, killing more than 2 million people. In 2004, the Indian Ocean tsunami, triggered by a magnitude 9.1 earthquake, devastated 15 countries and killed approximately 225,000 people. In 2008 in China, an earthquake of magnitude 7.9 killed 90,000 and left millions homeless. In 2010, Haiti was struck by a magnitude 7 earthquake that killed more than 300,000 people. In 2011, in Japan, a magnitude 9 earthquake and the following tsunamis caused the death of approximately 18,500 people and the Fukushima nuclear accident. The frequency and intensity of these disasters seem to be accelerating, exactly as Jesus predicted in his discourse on the Mount of Olives. The contractions are becoming more frequent, more intense. The world groans in anticipation of something great, something definitive, and Israel finds itself at the heart of it all. This is not by chance. This is not a geological coincidence. Israel is the land where the story of redemption unfolded. It's where the patriarchs walked. It's where the prophets spoke. It's where Jesus died and rose again. And it's where he will return, his feet standing on the Mount of Olives, causing that prophetic earthquake described in Zechariah 14. The prophet Ezekiel, in chapter 38, verse 19, describes a future moment when God will intervene directly to defend Israel against a coalition of enemy nations. In my zeal and fiery wrath, I declare that at that time there shall be a great earthquake in the land of Israel. The Hebrew term for earthquake literally means shaking or trembling. It's the image of a God who shakes the earth itself to manifest his presence and power. The Apostle Paul, in the Epistle to the Hebrews, chapter 12, verses 26 to 27, references the earthquakes of the end times in these terms. At that time his voice shook the earth, but now he has promised, "Once more I will shake not only the earth, but also the heavens." The words "once more" indicate the removing of what can be shaken, that is, created things, so that what cannot be shaken may remain. Paul establishes here a parallel between the earthquake that accompanied the revelation of the law at Mount Sinai and a final shaking, even greater, that will mark the establishment of God's kingdom. Everything that can be shaken will be shaken. Everything that is temporal, fragile, human, will be revealed for what it is. Only eternal things, established by God himself, will remain. Tonight, while you sleep, the earth beneath Israel continues to move imperceptibly. The tectonic plates accumulate pressure. Hundreds of meters beneath the surface of the Dead Sea, the rocks compress, twist, await the moment of release. Scientists monitor, seismographs record, data accumulates, and everything points to the same inevitable conclusion. It's going to happen. The question isn't whether, but when. Professor Shmuel Marco said it clearly. The geological record does not lie. The earth keeps within itself the memory of 220,000 years of earthquakes. It knows its rhythm. It follows its cycles. And the next great earthquake is overdue. But what science cannot tell you is the spiritual significance of these events. What seismographs cannot measure is how these physical earthquakes reflect even deeper spiritual upheavals. What geological studies cannot predict is the exact moment when God will choose to intervene in human history. In the book of Revelation, chapter 8, verse 5, an angel takes the censer filled with fire from the heavenly altar and throws it on the earth. Immediately there came peals of thunder, rumblings, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake. It's the image of a direct link between heaven and earth, between the prayers of the saints and divine interventions, between the invisible spiritual world and visible physical manifestations. Each earthquake we feel is like a reminder, a warning, a cosmic alarm bell telling us, wake up. Time is running out. History is moving toward its climax. The end is approaching. Matthew, in chapter 27, verses 51 to 54, tells us what happened at the very moment when Jesus breathed his last breath on the cross. At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook, the rocks split, and the tombs broke open. The bodies of many holy people who had died were raised to life. When the centurion and those with him who were guarding Jesus saw the earthquake and all that had happened, they were terrified and exclaimed, "Surely he was the Son of God." The death of the Messiah caused an earthquake. His resurrection 3 days later caused another, as Matthew 28 verse 2 reports. There was a violent earthquake, for an angel of the Lord came down from heaven, and going to the tomb, rolled back the stone and sat on it. When Jesus returns, a third earthquake, the greatest of all, will shake the entire planet. Right now, Israel waits. The earth waits. Creation waits. Everything groans, everything sighs, in anticipation of that moment when all things will be renewed, when God's kingdom will finally be established on earth as it is in heaven. The earthquakes in Israel aren't simple geological phenomena. They're prophetic signs, divine warnings, temporal markers that indicate where we stand in God's plan for humanity. So what should we do? The Apostle Peter, in his second epistle, chapter 3, verses 10 to 11, exhorts us thus, "But the day of the Lord will come like a thief. The heavens will disappear with a roar. The elements will be destroyed by fire, and the earth and everything done in it will be laid bare. Since everything will be destroyed in this way, what kind of people ought you to be? You ought to live holy and godly lives. We must prepare ourselves, not just by building earthquake-resistant buildings or stockpiling emergency supplies, but by preparing our hearts, by making sure we're ready to meet God, by living each day as if it were the last, by sharing the gospel with those around us because time is running out. Jesus himself warned us in Luke chapter 21, verse 34, "Be careful, or your hearts will be weighed down with carousing, drunkenness, and the anxieties of life, and that day will close on you suddenly like a trap." Let's not be caught off guard. Let's not let the distractions of this world put us to sleep spiritually. The earthquakes in Israel are a call to awakening. Each tremor is like a voice crying in the wilderness, "Prepare the way of the Lord." Each aftershock is a reminder that our time on this earth is limited, that eternity is approaching, that judgment is near. But there's also tremendous hope, because after judgment will come restoration. After the earthquakes will come peace. After destruction will come reconstruction. The prophet Isaiah in chapter 65, verses 17 to 19, gives us this magnificent promise. "See, I will create new heavens and a new earth. The former things will not be remembered, nor will they come to mind. But be glad and rejoice forever in what I will create. For I will create Jerusalem to be a delight and its people a joy. I will rejoice over Jerusalem and take delight in my people. The sound of weeping and of crying will be heard in it no more. One day there will be no more earthquakes, no more natural disasters, no more destructions, no more deaths, no more tears. God himself will wipe every tear from our eyes, as Revelation promises in chapter 21, verses 3 and 4. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "Look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and he will dwell with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away." That's where we're headed. That's the hope that must sustain us as we see the signs of the times multiplying around us. The earthquakes in Israel aren't the end of the story. They're the prelude to a new beginning. They're the painful contractions announcing the birth of a new world. So keep your eyes open, stay vigilant, pray without ceasing, and remember the words of Jesus in Luke chapter 21, verses 28 and 36. When these things begin to take place, stand up and lift up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near. Be always on the watch and pray that you may be able to escape all that is about to happen, and that you may be able to stand before the Son of Man. The next major earthquake in Israel could happen tomorrow, or next week, or in a year, or at midnight tonight. We don't know the day or the hour, but one thing is certain. Each tremor brings us closer to Christ's return. Each aftershock reminds us that this world isn't our permanent home. Each movement of the earth beneath our feet tells us that something great, definitive, eternal is about to happen. Are you ready? Tentar novamente.